Breaking news, the Pelicans fire head coach Willie Green. I'll tell you why it's concerning that it took so long to make this move, what it means for the remainder of the season and beyond, and the impact on Zion Williamson. It's today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, been hosting the show for 10 plus years, Jake Madison, at Nola Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on a Saturday. It's an emergency show. The news is breaking from Chris Haynes that Willie Green has just been fired by the New Orleans Pelicans. I'll tell you right up front, this was a move that was inevitable, a move that should have happened earlier. The fact that it didn't happen earlier is actually concerning. This is going to have impacts on Zion Williamson, the remainder of the season. So let's dive into it all in an emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're on YouTube. We're wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Same place you watch your Pelicans play. So the news broke early Saturday morning from Chris Haynes, who broke it first, that Willie Green was being let go from the New Orleans Pelicans after 4 and 14 games, or 4 and 12 games, 4 seasons, 12 games. He has a record of 150 and 190. That is good for a winning percentage of 44.1%. This was time. The Pelicans are 2-10 this season after a 6-game losing streak, another 4-game losing streak with 2 wins packed in there. This was just inevitable. Willie Green has been dealt a bad hand at times. We'll get into that, but has not shown the growth you want to see as a coach. Has been at times a heady stand through a lot of injuries, but at the end of the day, wins and losses are what matters, and this team was not winning, and they were not even particularly competitive in games this season. Simply put, this had to happen. And if you watched their loss to the Lakers on Friday night, you could see it in the players. They have given up on this head coach. They have given up at times, it looks like, this season. That was some of the worst body language from players on the court that I have ever seen. And I've been covering this team, which means I've seen some bad basketball for 15 years now. This was a move that needed to happen. Willie Green was in the final year of his contract. He has felt like a lame duck. Why they kept him as you entered a new era with Joe Dumars replacing David Griffin really seems to be confusing. We'll talk more about why it's so concerning that it took so long to fire head coach Willie Green coming up in the next segment of this emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans. But simply put, this had to happen. Here's what the Pelicans said in their press release. Quote, the Pelicans have relieved Willie Green of his duties as head coach. It was announced today by Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations Joe Dumars. Associate head coach James Borrego has been named interim head coach. Quote, after careful evaluation, we have made the difficult decision to make a change at head coach, stated Dumars. I have the utmost respect for Willie Green, and I'm sincerely appreciative of his contributions to the Pelicans organization and the New Orleans community. We wish him and his family the best in the future, end quote. Quote, as I stated, Joe Dumars is in charge of basketball operation decisions, and as one of the best basketball minds in the business, I trust him to make the right decisions for our franchise, said Pelicans Governor Gayle Benson. I have tremendous admiration and respect for Willie Green, and I truly appreciate all he has done for our organization over the last few years. This is a tough business, and these are tough decisions. My expectation is to be a winning team that competes for championships, and I remain steadfast in our commitment to building a championship caliber organization for our players, partners, and above all, our fans. So James Borrego is the associate head coach. The fact that they kept him after he was interviewing for lead assistants with the Denver Nuggets, with the New York Knicks, and the Knicks wanted to hire him, and the Pelicans said no. The replacement was kind of waiting. The interim head coach was there in the waiting, and for the past couple of years, it felt like this was going to eventually be inevitable, that James Borrego, who's been with the team now for a couple of seasons, would take over. He had interviewed for other head coaching jobs. He has previous head coaching experience with the Orlando Magic as an interim and the Charlotte Hornets. This had to happen. To get back to that, you know, when you look at Willie Green, despite 2 playoff seasons here in New Orleans, despite kind of being in contention for the play-in tournament every year, you just didn't see the growth. And this season in the Pelicans, 10 losses so far, 2-10, in a year where you traded next year's future first-round pick, so you are actually trying to win now. This season has already felt like a waste. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You were also getting blown out. Through the first 6 games, New Orleans had 3 losses by 30 or more points. During that same stretch, there were 6 total blowout losses like that, and New Orleans had half of them. For Joe Dumars to come in as the new lead basketball decision maker and say, we might not win games, but we're going to be competitive every night. This is going to be a team that our fans are proud of. That is not the product that you saw out there on the court, and you could just feel this wasn't working. This is a team that has been close, but never over the hump over the past couple of years. And by hump, I mean just being to a solid playoff contending team. A lot of that has to do with injuries, but a lot of that has to do with some of the decisions from head coach Willie Green. You've had issues in the third quarters for years now. New Orleans regularly gets blown out 10 plus points just in the third quarter alone. On Wednesday night in their loss to the Portland Trailblazers, they were up 2 at halftime. They were down double digits at the end of the third quarter. This has regularly happened and was a big reason why the Pelicans were losing games. You've also seen questionable rotations. I think the overall complaints about some of the rotations with Willie Green are overblown. I do think every team complains about their head coach's rotations, but you have a rookie in Derek Queen who is showing you something, who has been winning his minutes and per cleaning the glass has some of the better on-off numbers on the team this season. For a team struggling to get wins, you need to play guys that are helping you win games, and Derek Queen, for the most part, is doing that. Yet the Pelicans have continued to start Kevon Looney in the first half and second half, and in the limited minutes that he's playing, the Pelicans have gotten killed. At a certain point, you need to make some changes. The overall end of Willie Green's tenure has less to do with the wins and losses to me, even though that's a big part of it, and more to do just there is a level of stubbornness there when it came to him. He wanted to play the veteran guys. He wanted to do things a certain way, even when they weren't working, and continued to do that. Yes, I believe in process over results, but at a certain point, if your process is bad, you shouldn't stick with the process, and that is something you've seen with head coach Willie Green. Look, he's a good person. I don't want to root for anyone to lose their job. I don't want to celebrate anybody losing their jobs, but this is just something that had to happen. Particularly with the body language from the Pelicans on the court and this team just openly quitting, it felt like, on their head coach as the season has gone on. So this was a move that needed to change. It's also a move that needed to happen before this season started. Let's get into that, and I'll tell you why it's so concerning that it took this long to make this decision. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. This decision happening 12 games into the season makes me very much question the direction of this franchise and the people leading it. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, my energy, my mood, your skin even looks better. And that's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like, whether you're recording an emergency show, then going to a football homecoming game. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drinks. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands, using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as part of my daily routine. I mix a packet in the morning before I head to the gym so that I'm hydrated for those workout sessions. If you need it in a midday slump, it can be a nice little pickup like that as well. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com, use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before it gets hotter later in the year, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is also brought to you by Wayfair. Holiday season is around the corner, and that means it's time to get your home ready. Whether you need more seating for guests, cozy new linens, or fun servingware for holiday hosting, it's Wayfair's Black Friday sale, and it's here to help you make your space shine. And the best part, you don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long with up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. You can even do it for art to refresh your place. I have an awesome Jordan print, another one here that's in the kitchen that looks fantastic. It's a statement piece. People talk about it. Got it at a great price off of Wayfair. And if you don't have a truck to go pick up heavy furniture, all that, They deliver it right to your door, completely free. So if you've ever hosted family for the holidays, you know how much of a difference a few touches can make, and Wayfair makes that easy. So don't miss out on early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. Sale ends December 7th. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, which is also now the #1 sports podcast network. We got a lot of number ones here over at Locked On Pelicans. So let's continue to talk about the Pelicans firing head coach Willie Green. This took too long. We talked about it in the first segment here. You've seen the same mistakes from Willie Green creep up this season. It's just a lack of coaching growth. Coaches can improve very much like players do, but you struggled to see where the improvement was coming from with head coach Willie Green. From his first year on this team where he took them to the playoffs, and they even managed to take the Phoenix Suns to 6 games in the first round, getting 2 wins there. And yes, Willie Green has been dealt a bad hand. Zion Williamson has been out significantly during his time here, missing his whole first season that Willie Green was the head coach. Brandon Ingram missed tons of time. Herb Jones, Trey Murphy missed tons of time last year. This team has just been decimated by injuries regularly. Zion Williamson's out now. Jordan Poole's out now. But the same issues kept coming up. And again, at the end of the day, it's about results, and the results weren't there. If this team was close in all of these games this season, that might be one thing, but they were regularly getting blown out. You regularly saw mistakes with the rotation, particularly in the third quarter. You regularly saw a lack of offensive identity. He's known as a defensive coach, but the past 2 years, injuries play a part in this. The team has been atrocious defensively, even more so this year. That just can't be acceptable here in New Orleans. This is a team that at times has struggled to kind of make its mark in the city and the region. Losing doesn't help you. The Friday game, last night's game against the Los Angeles Lakers, a Laker game usually kind of has a good turnout. It was an abysmal attendance in the Smoothie King Center. You can't have that be the case. This team needed to do something to show that these results weren't acceptable. The team, for better or worse, had been sending a message that they did not care. By making this move now, even if it doesn't fundamentally change much of what you see on the court, it's not like the Pelicans likely are going to turn into, a playoff caliber team, but at least you send a message that getting blown out, that the same mistakes happening isn't okay. While there needs to be more accountability, this is at least some accountability in the first place, and that is an important thing to keep in mind. But this should have happened earlier, and the fact that it didn't makes me concerned about Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver running this team. Gail Benson, the governor, the owner, gave an interview to the Times-Picayune the other day saying, hey, they're in charge. Well, Joe Dumars then showed he was in charge, but you should have made this decision in the offseason. Willie Green, as we stated before, was a lame duck head coach coming into the year. He was never going to be your head coach next season. And if you knew that, why roll with him this year? Why not try and find your next head coach? Or after the first 6 games, when fans are as furious as I've ever seen them, I've been covering this team for 15 years, and this is easily the most frustrated I've ever seen the fan base do something, and the team did nothing. You have James Borrego that maybe you want to have be your head coach next year. Give him more of an opportunity to audition for the role. If you knew Willie Green wasn't the long-term coach, you shouldn't be keeping him as your head coach in the short term, which I think has actively caused damage. This team is in the middle of a 5-game homestand. Why not do this at the beginning of the homestand? Players are sleeping in their own beds. You aren't traveling, so you have more time to practice. Your new head coach and associate head coach, now interim head coach James Borrego, is going to make some changes. You just missed out on 2 practice days, 2 shoot-arounds, to be able to let him implement some more things. So for a team that would like to win now, and I would like to see them win now, you cost yourself more time that you just didn't need to because of reasons. We don't even really know. And that's what's so concerning about this. Joe Dumars made that draft night trade for Derek Queen, giving up next year's future first-round pick that has been derided around the league. And while Derek Queen has looked good, let's be clear, it's only been 12 games. We don't want to anoint a rookie just yet. There was still questionable decision-making in the process to get Derek Queen, even if Derek Queen is good. You probably could have gotten top 3 protection on that future first-round pick that you gave up, but they straight up didn't do that. Process and results are separate things. And while the result of Derek Queen looks good, I agree with that. The process to get there was not good. And it doesn't mean that you're going to have a bad process, but good results every single time. And this was bad process to keep Willie Green that also led to bad results. That makes me concerned about the decisions Joe Dumars will make in the future. That makes me concerned about how they're going to try and turn this team around. You know, one of the things that I have said is I don't know if they have the self-awareness in this organization to truly understand where they are with what this roster is and the limitations it has. If this team thought they were going to be a title contender or a solid playoff team going into this season, you whiffed on that. You were incorrect. And to not have that awareness means you can't make the correct decisions that are in the best interest of this franchise, which right now, frankly, looks like a rebuild. We'll talk more about that in the next segment and the impact next year, and potentially on Zion Williamson. I don't trust the front office to make the correct decisions, even if Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, their two rookies, have looked good. Herb Jones in the extension, he partially said it was like kind of him going to them being like, I want to sign an extension. No, they still did it too. But I really am worried about the process. If they looked at this and thought Willie Green was going to be the right head coach for the team or that they should keep him, do you trust them to hire the next head coach and get that correct? You shouldn't. I don't. Now, you can still hit on those things, but again, the process has been flawed with how they are doing things here in New Orleans. It's been flawed for a little while here, but it's exemplified by the quick hiring process of Joe Dumars. When they didn't interview anyone else, they fired David Griffin, had already lined up Joe Dumars without even really a formal interview process or anything. You weren't necessarily going out and getting the best person. You just got somebody that you felt comfortable with, someone who hadn't run a team for 10 years and kind of left Detroit after winning a title there and looking like a brilliant executive. The latter half was not good. You hired Troy Weaver, who is a very good talent evaluator. I can give him that. But overall cohesion building a team is maybe questionable. I don't trust this front office as of now to make these decisions going forward, to hire the next head coach. And we'll look at some of the names that it could be coming up in the next segment here. But if you're those people, if you're a Michael Malone, a Taylor Jenkins, do you want to come to this team for the way they are operating right now? That's something that needs to be factored into this as well. Maybe you do because you think you're going to have tons of job security because Willie Green lasted longer than he should have. But essentially, by waiting or not having the self-reflection, awareness, whatever it is you want to say about it, of Willie Green and where this team is, they have cost themselves this year. Yes, you will get development from rookies Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears, but it's a non-playoff year. You kind of have seen a little bit of that coming forward. I had this team plagued as a play-in tournament team at best. That doesn't mean you get into the playoffs. That's a problem. If you thought you were going to be bad, yes, you might really like Derek Queen, but protect that pick, and maybe you can have Derek Queen and a top 3 pick in a loaded draft next season. That's what's lacking here in New Orleans. That's what delaying this decision, costing yourself 2 more games that could have built some goodwill for you, that could have been 2 wins, that could have just been different and not the same slog that people don't want to show up to the Smoothie King Center to see. You could have done something to inject a little bit of life into the fan base. And while, yes, you don't want fans calling the shots, this one has been pretty clear for a while that they needed to fire head coach Willie Green. They waited for whatever reason. It was pointless. And that makes me question their thinking and what they're doing. Are they truly aware of what is going on with this franchise? Are they truly in touch from top to bottom? You subjected Willie Green. The boos weren't loud or anything like that, but you subjected him to that for no reason if you knew you were going to fire him. You cost this team 2 days of practice, shoot-arounds, and just getting the ship right. Why delay it when it felt like it had been sinking for a while? That is on Joe Dumars as the lead basketball decision maker here in New Orleans. That makes me question what he's going to do going forward. That is not an encouraging thing whatsoever. Yeah, you finally made the obvious move that you should make. And I've been saying they need to fire Willie Green. You had to do something, and the team was just so delayed in acting. That's disappointing. That makes me concerned. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. So coming up next, what's it mean for this season and next season, the immediate impacts, future impacts, other burning questions that we are going to have? That's coming up here next in today's episode, an emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by DoorDash. Things are heating up in the NBA, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. So whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, your favorite player, who might be Derek Queen right now, DoorDash makes every night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time a player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, stuff you're going to actually want. And I love that it's not just food. You can get everything from snacks, drinks, headphones, ice, socks if you're cold, all delivered to your door. And DoorDash has you covered for late-night highlights, last-minute watch parties, and double OT fuel up. So the next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass, plus a shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the next day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. And it just keeps every game more exciting. If you know the Pelicans are going to fade in the third quarter, they have updated third quarter lines. Go against New Orleans, but maybe that's going to change now with interim coach James Borrego. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers, $300 in bonus bets. That's the best offer we've seen after your first $5 bet wins over at FanDuel.com. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We got the emergency show here, the instant reaction. We'll be covering this all next week here on Locked On Pelicans. I'm still here for a week. Then I'm going on my honeymoon. I'm getting married literally a week from today. I'll see you all in 3 weeks after that. But we've got you covered this coming week, and we're going to break down everything about this Willie Green firing. We'll do deep dives on coaches, all of that stuff over the next week. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, or watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. So final couple things. Who's going to be the next head coach? I do think they will look at James Borrego as being the interim here and giving him an opportunity to be the next head coach of this team. However, I think that would be an uninspired choice. Let's see what he does. TBD on that. But I think they need to do something that just energizes this fan base. And a guy that has been on the staff for a little while on a team that has not won will likely not really be the guy. But let's see what he does with the offense. James Borrego was essentially brought in to be the offensive coordinator after being head coach in Charlotte and an assistant elsewhere. This is someone who is highly respected around the league. Let's see what they end up doing here as they bring him in and let him start to run the team. Will we see a more cohesive offense? Will there be more of an emphasis on Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen? Will starting lineups change? How does the third quarter look? There need to be some changes here, and I would hope that James Borrego will put some bigger ones in. He's coached this team, I want to say, twice in his time here in New Orleans so far. At least once, and they won that game. It might have been a second time. I can't remember as I'm trying to record this and get this show out really quickly. And I think they won at least one of the games that he's been the head coach when Willie Green missed it due to whatever reason. They seem to respond well to him. From talking to James Borrego, he's a highly intelligent guy that I think is going to bring some needed energy to this team. And so on Sunday, as they play the Golden State Warriors, let's see what the body language looks like from these guys on the court and if there will be meaningful, tangible change out there on the court. Might still end up in a loss. That's okay. But do things feel different? And they really should here. The bigger question then becomes, is someone like Michael Malone, Taylor Jenkins, or one of the more established head coaches in the league available? And will they want to come to New Orleans? And I want to pump the brakes on that a little bit. We'll look at this more later in the week here, but if you're Michael Malone, a title-winning head coach who's thought of to be one of the better head coaches in the NBA, one, do you want to come to a team that from the outside has a very negative perception, looks dysfunctional? But the other bigger question is, Gail Benson in her interview for the Times-Picayune talking about both the Saints and Pelicans said, I'm giving them the money. It's on them to kind of make it right. Basically, she's saying, this isn't me. This is a Joe Dumars thing. This team has been known to be cheap, right? Willie Green is definitely probably in the bottom 5 paid head coaches in the league. Michael Malone, if he wants to come here, if they want him, is going to need to be one of the top paid, if not the highest paid head coaches in the league. You're looking at $10+ million, probably closer to 12 annually for Michael Malone. I don't know if the team's willing to pay that. And so we might have to write off some of these top coaching names already because of that. But if this team really wants to send a message, pay a big time head coach, a good name head coach, a lot of money to come in and really right the ship after, and add some credibility to your organization. That I think is an important thing. Another big question is, what does this mean for someone like Zion Williamson? James Borrego is going to want this job. He wants to be a head coach. He was interviewing for the Lakers job, the Cavs job just 2 years ago. Didn't get either of those, but he wants to be a head coach again. Does Zion Williamson represent the best path for him doing that? This is a 2 timelines thing. They need to prioritize the rookies and Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, but is Borrego coaching for his job? And if so, is he going to lean heavily on the vets, and do we run into a Willie Green situation again? My immediate inclination is no, we're not going to need to worry about that too much, but that is in the back of my mind and slightly a concern when it comes to it. So keep that in mind when it comes to all of this, that maybe there's going to be, some more of the same here, but this is an opportunity for the whole franchise to hit the reset button, and I'm going to do a whole show on this. You have a bit of a get out of jail free card, 2 young rookies that look good. You can now move on to a new era completely. And that might need to be what the Pelicans do. So there's going to be a lot of lingering questions. My phone is completely blowing up right now, obviously, as I'm recording all of this here. So we're going to wrap up the show. We'll have more to come. This is obviously what we're going to talk about on the Monday episode all next week of Locked On Pelicans. Wedding planning, talking coaching searches. It's a lot going on here. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Join us on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast. I'm your host, Jake Madison. See y'all next time.